There is a wound that doesn't bleed. You can't see it on the skin. You can't point to it on the body. But if you carry it, you know exactly where it lives. It lives in the moment someone looks at everything you've done and finds it slightly less than enough. Maybe it was a parent who never said, "well done," without adding "but." Maybe it was a home where love felt conditional, where affection had to be earned, where your best was always almost, but never quite, there. And you learned something in that home, not with your mind, with your bones. You learned that you were not enough, not as you were, not without improvement, not without achievement, not without becoming something more than what you already were. And so you started running toward grades, toward praise, toward accomplishment after accomplishment, trying to build out of achievement the thing that should have been given to you freely, the thing every child deserves without having to earn it, the simple, unconditional knowledge that they are enough, exactly as they are. You were not born believing you were not enough. You were taught it, and everything you've been running toward ever since is proof of that lesson. Psychologists call this conditional positive regard, a term introduced by Carl Rogers, one of the most important figures in humanistic psychology. It describes what happens when a child only receives love, approval, and affection in response to meeting certain conditions. When you behave well, love. When you achieve, praise. When you conform, acceptance. But when you fail, when you struggle, when you are simply and ordinarily human, silence, withdrawal, disappointment. The child learns quickly. They learn that their natural self, unpolished, imperfect, still becoming, is not the version that gets loved. So they bury that version and they build another one that performs, one that achieves, one that never stops trying to be enough. And that child grows up. They become the adult who cannot rest, who feels guilty doing nothing, who measures their worth in productivity, who lies awake at night replaying every mistake, every failure, every moment they fell short of the standard that was never fair to begin with. They become the person who needs external validation to feel real, who deflates at criticism and inflates at praise because their entire sense of self was built on the approval of someone who should have given it unconditionally. They become the high achiever who feels hollow inside every success, who reaches the finish line and feels nothing, because the finish line was never the point. The point was to finally feel enough. And no achievement can give you what a parent was supposed to. You can win every race and still feel like you're losing, because the trophy was never what you were really running for. Here is what nobody tells the child who was never enough. The standard was never fair. The bar was never meant to be reached. Because if you reached it, the conditional love would have nothing left to withhold, and withholding love was how control was maintained. You were not failing, you were being failed. There is a difference, and understanding that difference is the beginning of everything, because here is the truth that took you too long to hear. Your worth was never attached to your performance. It was never in the grades, never in the achievements, never in becoming something more than what you already were. Your worth was always there, whole, unchanged, present in you even in your worst moments, even in your failures, even in your most ordinary, unimpressive, beautifully human days. The work now is not to achieve more. The work is to unlearn the equation that was written into you before you were old enough to question it. The equation that said performance equals worth, achievement equals love, enough equals more. That equation was always wrong. and it was never yours to carry. You were enough the moment you arrived. Before the grades, before the achievements, before any of it, you were always enough. You just weren't told. And maybe nobody ever said it to you. Maybe nobody ever looked at you, just you, ordinary and imperfect and real, and said those words without conditions. So let me say it now. You are enough. Not when you achieve more, not when you fix yourself, not when you become the version of you that finally meets the standard. Right now, as you are, tired and trying and still here. You are enough. You always were.